And I think for Melissa, for you, just seeing this show come to life, what was it like for you watching this, like in terms of like your gut reaction, seeing everything just come to life on the series?
Is very surreal. That's the only word I could think of. It's surreal and astonishment.
Nerd Reactor, roll out.
Hi, good. How
Hi.
are you?
Good, good. And so watching Happy Face, the story of, well, Melissa, you being in this, it's like crazy. And I'm like, wow, I don't know how I would do things, but you are like on that path of just going forward and finding out information and just it's a crazy story. And I don't know, like for both of you in terms of trying to bring this to life in this show, in terms of balancing out and being respectful to those impacted by the Happy Face killer. What was that like?
Well, it's on top of mind, obviously, for I think for Jen and for myself, that it's difficult in my position because I want to tell my story, but the sad part and the unfortunate part is that to tell my story, that I have to tell the story that is connected to my father. And while I never want to give him the spotlight, he is part of the story. And so that's the unfortunate part. But I think I'm very, very aware of the surviving family members of the victims of my father. They're always on the top of my mind, and my family as well. They're always on the top of my mind. And whatever you want to
Yeah.
add to that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely something for me. It was like doing right by Melissa, making sure Melissa felt respected and, seen through this process. And then also, yeah, I mean, all the other victims, the surviving family members of Keith's victims. And, I know that neither of us take that lightly.
Yeah.
And so I think it's always been, for me, it was a balancing act between creating a show that's entertaining, suspenseful, and fun to watch while also realizing that these are real people. I have to stay true to Melissa's emotional story and be respectful of the crimes. And that was one of the reasons why, I decided to change the victims' names and also to not show any of the violence in flashback or anything like that. The show is really not about Keith's crimes as much as it is about the impact of his crimes on his family and other people.
Oh yeah, and we get to see that with the impact on getting to see you, Melissa, like your story, like the struggles with trying to, hiding your identity and then your father coming back. And just once that happens, all hell breaks loose again.
Right.
So what was that like in terms of just balancing those parts out with like those storylines and just holding things back, but then finally having the story progress through on this crazy, crazy, ride?
I think the series does a excellent job with showing the flashbacks, the memories with my father, which shows just truly the trauma that was inflicted for years. So it shows why myself and the character Anna Lee plays, why she chooses to stay silent and then why she chooses to not have a relationship. I think Jen did a really good job as the show creator and the writer to show the internal conflict. And then as far as the engine of the suspense, that's really Jen's talent.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, want to elaborate on that, Jen?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think again, I wanted to stay true to Melissa's emotional story, and that was what drew me to the podcast to begin with. But I always knew that we would need to have some kind of engine to make, a crime thriller, and have it be something people come back to week after week. And, you want cliffhangers and twists and turns. So we came up with this idea of the ninth murder that Keith confesses to as a way to kind of kick us off. And it is invented, but Keith has confessed to more crimes and says he's killed up to 100 women. So it was kind of pulled from things that he said, and then I kind of just solidified it into a little story, and that's kind of our jumping off point.
Oh yeah. And I think for Melissa, for you, just seeing this show come to life, what was it like for you watching this, like in terms of like your gut reaction, seeing everything just come to life on the series?
Is very surreal. That's the only word I could think of. It's surreal, and astonishment. Astonishment at the talent of the actors, Dennis Quaid and Annalee Ashford. They're spectacular actors. I was very skeptical that anybody could portray the manipulation and the toxic relationship that I had between my father and myself. And watching every scene between Dennis and Annalee was just riveting. They captured it. They captured exactly what it feels like to be in a conversation with my father and just the back and forth. Um, yeah, it's quite surreal.
James, Tamara, how's it going?
Good. How are you, John?
Good, good. Okay, so happy face watching this. I'm like, because I didn't know a lot about this story, but watching it, I'm like, oh, true crime, and then just dealing with like actual characters. And I was wondering if it was like that for you in terms of just being like surprised and wow, or you like, oh, I know all about this story. I've listened to the podcast many times.
Yeah. I think for me, I got to researching and then I'm like, okay, yeah, this is true crime. This is a story. But I think what pulled me into this story is the way that it approaches true crime in a different way. And it's a lot more from the angle and the aspect of the victims and the everyday people who were affected by this and who are continuing to try and find a life of peace or trying to find a place where they're not continuously traumatized, but still battling with the unhealed part and them wanting to find healing. So I think that kind of pulled me into the show for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And for me, I was unfamiliar with the Happy Face Killer. So I read the script first, and then I listened to the podcast, and that blew my mind. I didn't know the scope of it. I didn't know the trauma of it. And as hard as it was to listen to the podcast, it was very informative in a really important way because when you're stepping into the show as an actor, you want to bring the weight of that. You want to bring there's a responsibility to bring as real of a possible character to life. And the podcast, along with the script, really were rich source material to draw from.
Oh yeah. And I think with just true crime in general, people love it. They're like invested in it and obsessed with it. And I think it's just for me at least the just learning about like what makes evil people, how they act and what they do and just
Mhm.
trying to prevent that. And I guess for each of you, how do you feel about just true crime in general, whether it's like something like you're obsessed with?
It's her favorite genre.
No, it's not. I have a very strong aversion to true crime. When it comes to like violence in that way, I think it feels a little too close because again, these are everyday people. So I like to protect my peace a lot of the times. But starting out with this show, I think that was a big thing that I had to overcome. It's like you have to confront this material because your character is someone who confronts this material on a day-to-day basis. This is what her career is. So what does that look like? What does that physically entail? How do I stand confidently in knowing how to approach this material? And I think there was a lot of work on the back front of, giving myself grace and saying, okay, like literally listening to the podcast, standing in front of the mirror and watching myself being like, oh gosh, I can feel my shoulders, hunching over and my face is making all of these, reactions because it's so gory, it's so visceral. And that's what murder is and death is. But finding a place where I could rod myself, root myself as a character who sees it and is like, this is information. This is a person that did this and make it very logical. It was so interesting. It was really fun to do and also very uncomfortable, which is great.
Yeah, yeah. I think that I do watch true crime, and I think what's interesting as someone who does watch true crime is this is different from most of the true crime I watch because it doesn't glorify the violence or the killer. It talks about the trauma and the relationships and the psychology of what happens to all these people, which to me is the most interesting part of true crime. And so I think for this reason, I think it's going to be really like its own divergent thing from most true crime, and audiences are going to see that and realize it's about the relationships, it's about the characters.
Oh yeah. And I think what I like about this show is just seeing how the characters react, and you're like, wow, like I understand where they're coming from. For
Yeah.
example, you James as Melissa's husband, like you're like, Melissa, don't go down this path, and it's going to
Right.
lead to craziness and just
Yeah.
unraveling a lot of stuff.
Mhm.
And so, what was that like in terms of just knowing like these are the characters? Like, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, it was easy to step into in that regard because I think we can all associate with loving someone, uh, spouse, partner, friend, wanting to protect them and seeing them do something that we know is not healthy for them. Now, this is that to a thousandfold in a much more dramatic way, but it was easy for me to go, okay, this is someone I love and I need to protect them. And so I was able to really step into it with that in mind.
Oh yeah, and I guess my last question for you, Tamara, is like your character. I feel like is very gung ho and just we got to do the right thing.
Yeah.
So what was that like in terms of just playing that sort of character where just she's just very much just very focused.
I love it. I loved it. I think she is she's the one that is continuing to say, "Hey, let's poke at the thing. Let's poke at the thing. Let's open it up. Let's dissect it." There's a little bit of a separation because she doesn't get to feel the emotion, but she witnesses Melissa experiencing the emotion, but is still keeping her on track. Because in order to continue to heal, you have to be able to process the emotion. She has to do that on her own, but you have to continue to move forward. If you sit and dwell in the same thing over and over, you never move forward. So I love that she is the person that is like, okay, I'm driving the car. You good? We ready? We got to keep going. Process your stuff and let's keep
And I'm
going.
going, stop the car,
No,
pull the car over,
we're
come
gonna
back to
keep
the
driving.
house.
Well, James,
Yeah.
Tamara, it's a pleasure chatting with you both, and I can't wait for the show to come out and everyone to check it out. So, with this show, being in this true crime drama, what was that like when you first read about it and knowing that your characters will be on a kind of like crazy journey?
Yeah, our characters for sure went on a crazy journey. And I think the first impression of at least the script was just, wow, this is insane. And the writing is phenomenal. And also, I really loved how it was portrayed through Melissa's point of view. I think that's really important and something that the viewers will definitely take note of.
And then for you, Benjamin?
I think it's actually like crazy that it's actually a true story. I like how it's written. And wait, what was the question again?
Oh, just being in this, like finding out that it's going to be like a crazy journey for your characters.
Oh, I was so excited for me. And my mom was excited too. The whole family was so excited. I couldn't wait.
Yeah. And I think with these type of shows like true crime, people love true crime. And I don't know what your background is on true crime. If you listen to podcasts or watch a lot of true crime shows or movies and all that. So I just want to know more about your experiences.
You watch a lot of true crime?
I watched like horror movies. We did listen to Melissa's podcast about the Happy Face Killer. And also I like a lot of zombie movies. I like those.
I definitely watched a lot of true crime before I filmed this project. But filming it has definitely altered my view on true crime for sure. It was it was just really real and raw, and it really reminded us that these are real people and real events and real raw emotions that they go through, and it's really important to stay mindful and respectful of them.
Oh yeah. And I think that's what I have been enjoying about the show, just showing like how just something like this can affect the family, but also like what as a person do you have to be in terms of wanting to help people out, but then also still trying to maintain that personal life. And I guess for each of you, what was that like in terms of like the balance of just like if the understanding of like, yeah, I understand what Melissa's trying to go through with protecting her family, but also trying to find out to help out others that are affected by the happy face killer.
For Melissa, especially in the show, it was really portrayed how difficult that was for her. And how much she wanted to help others, but also how much it was really important for her to have that balance of how far she wants to dive back into what happened in her past and how much she wants to kind of leave behind her.
And I think with this show, it's a heavy topic, right? But you're also you're gonna be in this on the set like day in, day out. And if there's like anything that just helps just alleviate things, like whether it's just bonding through your fellow castmates, anything like that.
Okay. Yeah, we definitely like to keep it light in between takes, of course, because of the subject matter. We did a lot of joking around. We had some inside jokes that we would laugh about, and we would play some games. We would just talk with each other and really build that like nice relationship with each other, which was nice.
We played like Uno, and I tossed around the football with my dad, who plays Jimmy, or plays Jimmy, who plays my dad.